Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Arab-led warplanes strike key targets of Yemeni Houthi rebels in their northern stronghold of Sada. Fierce battles between Syrian government forces and Daesh group leave 34 fighters dead in eastern Syria. And Prime Minister David Cameron wins an emphatic election victory in Britain. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. Arab-led warplanes struck key targets of Yemeni Houthi rebels in their northern stronghold of Sada after Saudi Arabia vowed harsh punishment for deadly cross bombardments. The kingdom's SPA official news agency said the raids targeted 2 control centers, a communication complex and a landmine factory. The agency said the coalition also destroyed other rebel positions in Sada province, which borders Saudi Arabia. Fierce battles between Syrian government forces and Daesh group in eastern Syria have left 34 fighters dead in 24 hours. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said today 19 pro-government forces and 15 Daesh militants had been killed since clashes began late Wednesday in the city of Deir ez-Zor and around its nearby military airport. The observatory said at least 7 pro-government forces and 6 civilians were killed in attacks in Aleppo city. It added that an explosion in the Bili military airport killed 13 government soldiers, including the base's head southeast of Syria's capital. Prime Minister David Cameron won an emphatic election victory in Britain, overturning predictions that the vote would be the closest in decades to sweep into office for another 5 years, with his Labour opponents in tatters. The sterling currency and share prices soared on a result that reversed expectations of an inclusive hung parliament, with Cameron jockeying for power with Labour rival Ed Miliband. Instead, Cameron was due to meet Queen Elizabeth before noon to accept a swift mandate to form a government. A Pakistani military helicopter crashed into a school in the country's north today, killing 6 people and setting the building ablaze. The helicopter was one of 3 carrying a delegation of envoys to inspect projects on a 3-day trip to Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan territory, where they were set to meet with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. According to the army, the Norwegian and the Philippine envoys were killed, along with the wives of the Malaysian and Indonesian ambassadors, as well as the helicopter's 2 pilots. The Pakistani Taliban claimed responsibility for downing the helicopter. The U.S. Senate voted overwhelmingly to pass a bill giving Congress the right to review and potentially reject an international nuclear agreement with Iran. The 98-1 vote sent the measure to the House of Representatives, which is expected to consider it as soon as next week. The White House has said President Barack Obama would sign it into law if it also passes the House, as expected. Republican House Speaker John Boehner issued a statement supporting the bill shortly after the Senate vote. Passage in the Senate came after months of intense discussion of how Congress could best have a voice in the ongoing negotiations between the United States and 5 other world powers with Iran over its nuclear program. The Philippines is preparing to evacuate residents along its northeastern coast as a typhoon approaches, as well as those near a rumbling volcano that has been spewing steam and ash over a central province. Officials said Typhoon Nul was about 480 kilometers northeast of the town of Borongan early today, with wind gusts of up to 185 kilometers per hour, and was expected to make landfall as a Category 4 storm at the weekend. The Weather Bureau said the typhoon was expected to bring heavy to intense rainfall when it makes landfall in the northeast. It was then expected to weaken as it swung northeast towards the Japanese island of Okinawa by Tuesday. Still to come in our news bulletin. Within the participation of the Sultanate in Tehran International Book Fair, an Omani evening is organized in Iran. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Encouraging and stimulating students to learn the Holy Quran and memorizing it were the main goals of Quran competition in the Wilaya of Mahda. The competition, which was under the supervision of the Directorate General of Education in the Governorate, held at Al-Mahda Primary School. It started in 2007 and it is organized annually. The conclusion ceremony of the competition in its 8th edition witnessed a wide attendance of people of the Wilaya. An Omani evening was organized in the Iranian capital, Tehran, within participation of the Sultanate in the Tehran International Book Fair. The book fair witnessed participation of a number of Omani intellectuals, publishers, and authors to introduce Omani civilization to the people of Iran. The Omani night, which was organized in the areas of Milad Tower, included musical pieces, fine arts, manuscripts, and fashion exhibition. The Omani evening witnessed a wide attendance from Iranians and Arabs who expressed that such evening reflects Omani civilization. Besides, they liked the Omani publications. To villagers in northern Botswana, elephants are mainly seen as wild animals that cannot be controlled and destroy their crops. More details in the following report.
No harvest for Minsozi. Elephants have destroyed her field and eaten all the corn. It is a recurring issue for the people of Mabele in north of Botswana, where elephants roam free. Her village is located on the edge of Chobe National Park, and according to Minsozi, the situation deteriorated when the government banned hunting in January 2014.
During previous hunting seasons, I was able to harvest my crops because the elephants were killed. But this year, due to the hunting ban, I can't harvest anything because elephants have destroyed my crops. I'm so stressed, I don't know how my children and I are going to survive. My husband's salary is not enough.
Before 2014, regulated hunting was allowed. Local communities were given a quota of animals, including elephants and buffaloes, that could be shot. The villagers would sell hunting licenses to specialist companies, bringing in tens of thousands of dollars to the community.
In many places, tourism, which is the tourism as in photographic tourism, which is the obvious alternative, doesn't quite work, either because you have low densities or relatively low densities of wildlife, but yet important populations over a large area, or because you have disease or poor infrastructure, etc. So hunting is an option that is available to all governments, and many of them use it quite successfully, and Botswana did for quite a few years.
Botswana is home to a third of all African elephants. Its national parks and private reserves make tourism the country's most profitable industry, second only to diamond mining. The government wants the profits of tourism to benefit everyone without killing the animals.
The hunters only employ people during the hunting season. That's consumptive. Non-consumptive is throughout the year. So that is why we prefer the non-consumptive. Also, it looks after the species that we have.
Once the source of much-needed income, elephants are now becoming a major nuisance to some villages in Botswana.
Now the community, we used to tell them that conserve so that you get the profits. But now it's not easy to change the mindset and say conserve. Conserve for what?
In Botswana, hailed for its successes in conservation, this debate largely hinges on business rather than moral discussion on animal rights. Even tourist guides fear that the hunting ban will drive desperate villagers into indiscriminate killing.
Now for the general weather forecast. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with cloud accumulation over Hajar Mountains, with chances of rain over parts of the Governorate of Musandam. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate along the coast of the Sea of Oman, while it will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coast will be moderate to rough with a maximum wave height of 2.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Arab-led warplanes strike key targets of Yemeni Houthi rebels in their northern stronghold of Sada. Fierce battles between Syrian government forces and Daesh group leave 34 fighters dead in eastern Syria. And Prime Minister David Cameron wins an emphatic election victory in Britain. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.